Hello, this is part 50, preparation for NSE4 exam, Fortinet. Like the packet source, FortiGate also checks destination address for rematch. You can use address objects or ISDB objects as destination in the firewall policy. The address object may be hostname, IP subnet, or a range. Address objects subnet, it could be IP address or address range. Also FQDN, DNS query used to resolve FQDN. It could be geography. A country defines addresses by Internet service provider's geographical location and database updated periodically through FortiGuard. Address object could be dynamic, for example, fabric connector addresses. If you enter FQDN as the address object, make sure that you've configured your FortiGate device with DNS, domain name service, to resolve those FQDN host names to IP addresses that appear in the IP header. We can also choose geographical addresses. Geographical addresses are groups or range of addresses that are assigned to a country. FortiGuard is used to update these objects. So, why there is no option to select a user? The user identification is determined as the ingress interface, and packets are forwarded only to egress interface after the user is successfully authenticated. If Internet service is selected as source, you cannot use address in the source. Internet service Internet service database is ISDB. Internet service is a database that contains a list of IP addresses, IP protocols, and port numbers used by the most common Internet services. FortiGate periodically downloads the newest version of the database from FortiGuard, and we can select this as source or destination in the firewall policy. So what happens if we need to allow traffic to only a few well-known public Internet destinations, such as only to Dropbox or only to Facebook? When we configuring our firewall policy, we can use Internet services as the destination in firewall policy, which contains all the IP addresses, ports, and protocols used by that service. And for the same reason, we cannot mix regular address objects with Internet service database objects, and we cannot select services on a firewall policy. The Internet services database objects already have service information, which is hard-coded. And a geographic-based Internet service database allows users to define Internet service database objects based on country, region, and city. These objects can be used in firewall policies for more granular control over the location of the parent Internet Services Database objects. ISDB, Internet Service Database objects, are referenced in policies by name instead of ID. On Graphical User Interface, go to Policy and Objects and then choose Internet Service Database. ISDB updates. Internet Services Database updates. We can disable Internet Services Database updates so they only appear during change control window. Once Internet Services Database updates are disabled, other scheduled FortiGuard updates for IPS, antivirus, or so on, so we don't need to update ISDB. By default, ISDB updates are enabled. To control ISDB updates, we can go to command line interface and type command config system FortiGuard set update ffdb and then choose enable or disable. Then next, then end. Once Internet Services Database updates are disabled, other scheduled FortiGuard updates do not update Internet Service Database. Scheduling. Schedules add a time element to the policy. For example, we might use a policy to allow backup software to activate at night or create a test window for a remote address that is allowed for testing purposes. Schedules can be configured and use a 24-hour time clock. There are a few configuration settings worth mentioning. They could be recurring or one-time. Recurring. If you enable all day, traffic will be allowed for 24 hours for the days selected. When configuring recurring schedules, we must set the stop time earlier than the start time. The stop time will occur next day. For example, if we selected Sunday as the day, 10 o'clock in the morning as a start time, and 9 o'clock as a stop time, then schedule will stop on Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. If the start and stop time are identical, the schedule will run for 24 hours. So we choose type recurring, then give it a name, for example, maintenance, and choose days. All day, there is a toggle, all day or not, and you can select any day of the week. Then you choose start time and then you choose stop time. So this is for recurring, and another type is one time. One time start date time must be earlier than the stop date and time. You can also enable pre-expiration event log, which will generate an event log n number of days before the schedule expires, where n can be from 1 to 100 days. One time happens only once. Matching by service. Another criteria that FortiGate uses to match policies is packets service. At the IP layer, protocol numbers, for example, TCP, UDP, SCTP, and other, together with source and destination ports, define each network service. Generally, only a destination port, that is the server listening port, is defined. Some legacy applications may use an application the source port is randomly identified at transmission time and therefore is not reliable way to define the service. For example, the predefined service object named HTTP is TCP destination port 80, and the predefined service object named HTTPS is TCP destination port 443. However, the source ports last only for a short time, and therefore these source ports are not defined. By default, services are grouped together to simplify administration by categories. If the predefined services don't meet your organizational needs, then we can create a new service groups, or we can create new categories. To create services, new services, we go to policy and objects, then choose services on graphical user interface, and then we can create new services. Which criteria does FortiGate use to match traffic to a firewall policy? Options: security profiles or source and destination interfaces. And the correct answer is source and destination interfaces. What must be selected in the source field of a firewall policy? Possible answers: at least one address object or ISDB, or at least one source user and one source address object. And the correct option is at least one address object or ISDB, Internet Services Database. Thank you. Next part will be about configuring firewall policies. See you in chapter part 51. Thank you.